Hi guys, my name is Ethan Bang Martinez. Today I'm going to be talking about APIs and why I feel you should know about them and and use them. So to start, I'm just going to give you a small outline about some of the things I'm going to be talking about. So first off, I'm going to be talking about what APIs are exactly. Um, then I'm going to go into the history, delve pretty deep into the history about kind of where they started and where they are now. Then I'm going to talk about why they are important, and then at the same time, what types of APIs that are available or that are there. Um, then I'm going to go over just some possible applications that people can use. I found some examples that are pretty interesting, and I'll be talking about those later on. And then I'm just going to go over the references real quickly, and then that'll conclude my presentation. Okay, so to start off, let me just explain to you guys what exactly APIs are. So, APIs, or sorry, API stands for Application Programming Interface. And as it says here, it is a software to software interface that enables two applications to exchange data amongst each other. So, anytime we use something like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, um, Google, anything that you can think of that we use on a daily basis. Even like checking the weather on our phone, we are using an API. And to give an idea of what's going on, in simpler terms, when we use a function on our phone, it connects to the internet, sends data to a server. The server then retrieves said data and returns back the information that we wanted in a readable, hearable, visible, or any type of able way that is needed at that exact time. And this is all done via an API calls. To give you guys a kind of a better understanding of what APIs are, I kind of wanted to show a video explaining it using a real world example and then going into the finer details of it, talking about a specific real world situation that an API is used and how that branches off into everything else that APIs are used for. So I'll go ahead and play this video right now.
Okay, to speak plainly, an API is the messenger that takes requests and tells a system what you want to do, and then returns the response back to you. To give you a familiar example, think of an API as a waiter in a restaurant. Imagine you're sitting at the table with a menu of choices to order from, and the kitchen is the part of the system which will prepare your order. What's missing is the critical link to communicate your order to the kitchen and deliver your food back to your table. That's where the waiter, or API, comes in. The waiter is the messenger that takes your request or order and tells the system, in this case the kitchen, what to do, and then delivers the response back to you, in this case, food. Now that we've whetted your appetite, let's apply this to a real API example. You're probably familiar with the process of searching for airline flights online. Just like at a restaurant, you have a menu of options to choose from. A drop-down menu in this case. You choose a departure city and date, a return city and date, cabin class, and other variables. In order to book your flight, you interact with the airline's website to access the airline's database to see if any seats are available on those dates and what the cost might be based on certain variables. But what if you're not using the airline's website, which has direct access to the information? What if you are using an online travel service that aggregates information from many different airlines? The travel service interacts with the airline's API. The API is the interface that, like your helpful waiter, can be asked by that online travel service to get information from the airline system over the internet to book seats, choose meal preferences, or baggage options. It also then takes the airline's response to your request and delivers it right back to the online travel service, which then shows it to you. So now you can see that it's APIs that make it possible for us all to use travel sites. The same goes for all interactions between applications, data, and devices. They all have APIs that allow computers to operate them, and that's what ultimately creates connectivity. So whenever you think of an API, just think of it as your waiter running back and forth between applications, databases, and devices to deliver data and create the connectivity that puts the world at our fingertips.
So I felt like that was a pretty great explanation of APIs, and hopefully you felt that as well. But we will go ahead and talk about the next topic, which is history. Okay, so history of APIs. I'm going to be talking about the commercial API beginning, um, because at the start of APIs, it was mainly used for commercial type ideas. Um, in a sense, some people would say that they put the commercial in .com. They power the vision of emerging commerce startups looking to change the way we do business on the web. They took advantage of this new medium to make products and services available to customers via a single website and ensure that partners and third-party resellers could extend the reach of their platforms. The commerce aids of web APIs was dominated by three companies, as listed here: Salesforce, eBay, and Amazon. Salesforce started February 7th, 2000, eBay November 20th, 2000, and Amazon July 16th, 2002. So, to begin, Salesforce launched its API, as it shows, February 7th, at something called the IDG Demo Conference, and it introduced an enterprise-class web-based Salesforce automation, Internet as a Service. XML APIs were a fundamental part of how Salesforce did business from day one, and essentially what it was used for was to allow Salesforce to be used in companies all over the world. Same thing with eBay. On November 20th, 2000, they launched the eBay API, or the eBay Application Program Interface, along with the eBay Developers Program. These were originally rolled out to only a select number of licensed partners within eBay and some developers, but it actually ended up shifting how things are sold on the web today. And lastly, Amazon, in July 16th of 2002, they launched the Amazon.com web servers, or as it's commonly known as today, AWS, which allowed developers to incorporate Amazon content and features into their own websites. And it let third-party sites search and display products from Amazon.com in an XML format, which is a format commonly used among most APIs. So, as many of you may know, these three companies forever changed how we do business online. Salesforce is used in many different companies throughout the world. eBay, while it may not be as high as it used to be, eBay is a gigantic company with features that are used all over the place. It sells the products that it lists, the advertisements. Amazon alone, Amazon is used all over the place for cloud solutions, for data, host, cloud services. There's tons of stuff that Amazon offers to this day, but at the start, what they wanted to do was essentially have their platform be used anywhere that it could be used. So that was the initial point of the API, the commercial API beginning, as I have laid it out. So that was kind of the start of this aspect of it. And this did kind of mark the start of APIs being used widely, because this was this was the first modern approach to APIs, and having APIs be used widely amongst a lot of people. So now we're going to talk about history of APIs, the social shift. In 2004, a shift in the API landscape began to emerge. Around this time, there were four major developments that set the stage for an incredible growth in a specific category of business, which was social media. The main part of this happened between 2006 through 2012. However, the start of it started around 2004. To start, we had something called Delicious. So in 2003, a new service for storing, sharing, and discovering web bookmarks emerged called del.icio.us, or Delicious. It allowed you to view them via a web interface, but if you change the extension of the bookmarks to HTML, from HTML to .xml, you'd receive a machine-readable list of your bookmarks. Obviously, you could tell the .xml was something commonly used among APIs, but in this case, it was to receive a machine-readable list of your bookmarks. Developers took advantage of this by building widgets and other embedded features fit for the budding field of social media. Next, Flickr. In February of 2004, the popular photo-sharing site Flickr launched. 6 months later, they produced their now infamous API, which allowed users to easily embed their photos on web pages and social media. It quickly became the image platformer of choice for the emerging social media movement. Then, 2 years later, Facebook, in August of 2006, launched its long-awaited development platform and API, version 1.0, which allowed developers to access Facebook users' friends, photos, events, and profile information, and help Facebook become one of the most popular social networks to date. Then, in September of 2006, Twitter introduced its own API in response to developers increasingly scraping content and data from their platform. They incorporated APIs into almost every feature of the product that we know today, from its mobile application to even simply the share button they have on their posts. It took another couple of years, but by 2010, social media had overtaken the population, and APIs formed the backbone of social media. APIs became how we connected with friends, developed business networks, shared images and video, relayed stories from our personal lives and professional lives through LinkedIn, and kind of reimagined the way that we see social interaction. Some may say for good, some may say for bad. Facebook and Twitter dominated, all while relying heavily on their communities, third-party developers, and advocates to expand their reach, grow their audience, and set the stage for a new generation of social influence powered by APIs. So the history of APIs moving to the cloud. So, as I had mentioned in a previous slide, Amazon was one of the initial API forefront companies, and having mastered the usage of APIs to power their commercial visions, which I had mentioned before, was kind of the initial ramp-up of APIs and how they used them. So having mastered the usage of those with unprecedented success, Amazon became the model for the next generation of startup tech companies and even large tech companies alike. Amazon's business model was API focused across its organization, and internally, all shared digital resources were required to have an API. As companies followed their lead, thus began one of the most fundamental shifts in how we view digital resources. Then, 2 new Amazon Web Services soon emerged that would change the way our world saw data usage. The first one, Amazon Simple Storage, or S3, was offered as a basic storage service that was solely accessible via API and CLI. And suddenly, essential digital resources were made available using low-cost web infrastructure. A pay-as-you-go model was introduced as a solution to monetizing digital assets in this new online economy. The way Amazon saw it was, we could sell this data, and we could charge based on how much we give them. It doesn't have to be a set amount. It could be charged based on how much they use, and that pay-as-you-go model was then introduced. Just 6 months after the S3 was released, Amazon came up with EC2, or Amazon Elastic Compute. It provided servers that developers could leverage to deploy the necessary infrastructure for the next generation of applications. Amazon Web Services changed everything. It demonstrated that web APIs could be used to deploy infrastructure, generate plenty of revenue for its company, and fundamentally change the way companies do business. But there was one more element that, when combined with the cloud, would impact our world in ways that we could have never imagined. Now, this leads us to the mobile era. So, in 2007, Apple launched the iPhone, which radically changed how we engage with the online world. Then, in that same year, Google responded by launching something called Android, which was an open source, or is an open source mobile platform. These developments spurred a massive investments in new startups, as well as large companies looking to provide much needed resources and applications to meet the growing public demand. Google Maps, for example. In 2006, Google launched a new mapping solution called Google Maps. 6 months later, the Google Maps API was made available in direct response to the number of rogue applications. And when I say rogue, I mean people basically reverse engineered and hacked the JavaScript application of Google Maps and made it so that they could use it themselves. Google just decided to create an API which could make it so that people could use their API and use their functionality on a platform separate from Google Maps. Location became a major topic of the API conversation, and that we're about to have on every mobile device sold in the next couple of years. Like, every single device on the planet right now currently has at least some capability of a mapping application. Usually every device has Google Maps. However, every company is seemingly making their own version of Google Maps. For example, Apple, they created their own version of Google Maps specifically for the iPhone. Foursquare, created in March 2009, was created marking a newfound idea in the API world, utilizing something similar to Google Maps. Foursquare was a location-based mobile platform that made cities more interesting to explore. Users would collect points and virtual badges in return for checking in and sharing their location with friends. Now, this was a very brand new type of mobile app, utilizing APIs to deliver a new generation of location-aware API-driven applications. Then, Instagram, which was created October 6, 2010, launched its own photo-sharing iPhone application. Less than 3 months later, it had 1 million users, which was insane at the time in 2010. Instagram focused on delivering a powerful but simple iPhone app that solved common problems with the quality of mobile photos as well as user frustration around sharing them. Immediately, many users complained about the lack of an Instagram API. One developer took it upon himself to reverse engineer how the iPhone app worked and built his own unofficial Instagram API on top of private Instagram APIs in December. This is what I'm talking about the rogue API applications that people create. By January, Instagram had shut down that rogue API, but had also announced that it was building one of its own so that people could start using Instagram as an API that they could use on their software. Twilio was created in 2007, which was a new API as a product. This introduced a voice API, which allowed developers to make and receive phone calls via any cloud application and capitalize on the growing need for voice-enabled apps. Over the next decade, Twilio became synonymous with the essential resources we need on our phones like voice, SMS, email, and other messaging and communication applications. The mobile evolution of the web made APIs what they are today, and commerce, social, and the cloud laid the foundation, but mobile put the web in our pockets. Our phones enabled us to take more photos, record new videos, and share more stories. API-powered mobile applications have led to waves of evolution, not just in mobile phones, but in any object that can be connected to the internet. They've opened up entirely new frontiers when it comes to how we create, transmit, store, and share data online. This idea could be used in anything. Once the idea of APIs became available to mobile applications and cellular devices, it opened the doors to many more things, which I will be talking about next. So lastly, I'm going to be talking about the next generation of devices. So while mobile application developers were busy developing APIs to deliver resources to the next generation of applications, some of them also began thinking about how everyday objects could be connected to the web. If devices such as cameras, thermostats, speakers, microphones, and sensors could connect to Wi-Fi or cellular networks, they could also send or receive data, content, media, and other digital resources via the magical new place called the cloud, which I previously explained. Common objects were granted a new life by allowing users to connect in ways they can never have imagined just a few years before. Something called Fitbit was established in March of 2017 and set out to deliver a range of products, including wireless-enabled wearable technology devices that can measure data like step count, heart rate, quality of sleep, and various other fitness metrics. It connected our health and activity to the cloud and opened up a whole new industry around connected wearable applications powered by APIs. Then Nest, which is now owned by Google, began in 2010 as Nest Labs and first produced a connected home thermostat. Later on, Nest released a smoke detector and series of home cameras, all available via a rich API developer ecosystem. I myself currently actually use Nest, the thermostat, and I actually have it connected to my phone. So that way, when I come home, I could set the temperature to whatever temperature I want, or have it set while I'm at work or somewhere gone. I could have the temperature set in my house to be whatever I want it to be, which is absolutely insane. Because, a couple years back, something like this would have never even been thought of. Then, Alexa was created in November of 2014. Amazon announced it alongside their...
that one.
Well, there she is. Alexa, alongside their Echo product, dubbed as a smart speaker, is a... Well, sorry, there she goes. She is a... She is capable of voice interaction, music playback, making to-do lists, setting alarms, streaming podcasts, playing audiobooks, and providing weather traffic, sports, and other real-time updates. These things are incredibly useful. I myself use mine on a daily basis for waking up, for asking about the weather, for any general task that I need, and even listing out things that I need to do for that day. Each feature leverages the API developer ecosystem to deliver a new generation of voice-enabled applications. So these examples are just kind of the more well-known devices that are being connected to the internet. However, there are thousands more, and they are all built on top of the API ecosystem. This connectivity showcases how APIs can be about much more than just building desktop, web, and mobile applications. They can be put to work creating what many call the Internet of Things. Connected devices continue to demonstrate the multi-channel power of APIs when it comes to delivering data, content, media, and algorithmic capabilities to a multitude of different applications. As you can see, APIs are no longer just at startups or small companies or even large companies like Amazon. Due to their success, mainstream corporations, organizations, institutions, and government agencies now are beginning to adopt them at scale. As you can clearly tell, APIs have jumped dramatically throughout just a short period of time. So why are APIs important, and what are the different types of APIs that are available? So, as previously mentioned, they help get things done. So, in many situations, APIs are something that could be used throughout a company, throughout the world, in a specific organization, and they allow someone to utilize a specific function, and kind of actually really help someone implement something that could be very difficult and allows that difficult task to become something that's a simple API call. So it not only helps get things done, but it allows freedom of projects that you can work on. So given that there's tons of APIs available, that means that there's tons of things that you can do with any of the projects that you create. And they also help to allow projects become more agile in their development. And obviously, allowing other people to use your APIs and your service around the world is probably a very big thing, especially for Amazon Web Services to be used around the world. I mean, it not only is free advertising, but it generates incredible amounts of revenue for that company. So the different types of APIs. There's internal APIs, which are APIs that are private and only used by your team, department, company, or organization. Then there's external APIs, which are also known as public APIs or open APIs. And these are publicly available APIs that are available for anyone to use. Then there's partner APIs, which are private and shared only with specific integration partners outside of your organization. So generally, companies like to keep APIs internal, especially if these APIs use trade secrets or things that people that are in the public should not be able to use. However, there are tons of external APIs and tons of ways that people publicly can use things that big companies have. So there's always that. Partner APIs, well, I am not too sure on this specific topic, but I know that these exist, but they probably have a very specific function for these and a very specific role to utilizing these types of APIs and having these types of APIs for companies. So lastly, I'm going to be talking about some possible applications that APIs can be used in. First of all, I'm going to be talking about something called Shodan. Now, Shodan is something that's a little bit more sketchy. It's mainly used by hackers, and you can utilize it to hack into, some examples are industrial refrigerators, ones that have internet capabilities, automated car washes, so things like drive-through car washes. If they are connected to the internet, you can actually connect to them. Traffic lights, you can control what is displayed, whether it's green, red, or yellow. You can actually control that, and there's many more things. So I'm gonna pull this up real quick. I can see here, this is Shodan, the website itself. You see here, I mean, you just have kind of some things that you're able to access. Cams, you can look into webcams. So you can, like, honestly, you could spy on people if you wanted to. There's a lot of things that you can do with this that's kind of shady. Databases, these are all the databases that are actually that Shodan can actually take in information from. And as we're here, I mean, this is like kind of a reading about it. It says MongoDB used to listen on public networks. This has resulted in many MongoDB users inadvertently making their data viewable to anyone on the internet. So these are just articles about how people are not securing their information. So clearly here, Shodan is one of the ways that people can actually access information, and people not know about it. So it's kind of a more shady possible application of APIs. I wanted to kind of explore that side of it because there are dangerous sides of this. There's also something cool, which is the SpaceX API. This one's a little bit more straightforward. You have access to all the details about SpaceX launches, including times, the type of rockets that they're using, the type of engine that they're using. You could learn about the crew, who they are, everything about them, and it has honestly, there's tons of information available. So here's kind of an overview of what you have available to you. So these are all GET queries or API queries that you could send, and it'll get any type of information that you want. See, original launch, mission, any type of idea or thing that you want, they usually have access to. So as long as you query this, you're able to get whatever you want from the SpaceX API, which is really cool. And lastly, there's something called the Segment API, which allows businesses to track the people that utilize their application. It gives It gives the user or the company the ability to generate analytics and information about the people that's using their software and get an idea of how they can improve their company through that. So this is a little bit invasive in people's space. However, it's very effective in improving companies as a whole, and it's a well-known and widely used business model. And Segment is kind of one of the ways that people actually utilize this. So Segment kind of accumulates all the data and allows you to utilize the data to create analytics using these types of Adobe Analytics, Amplitude, Intercom, Google Analytics, and it's a very nice way for for a company to utilize this API and access data about the people that use their information. It could be used for advertising, sales, support, tons of different things. So obviously there's many different ways that APIs can be used. These are just a few, and I've already went over some of the earlier things about APIs and some ways that they could be used. But obviously APIs are incredibly useful. They could be very dangerous. They could be very helpful. But in the end, they exist. They're here. And if any of you guys ever decide to make any sort of project, I highly recommend you think about using APIs for any sort of thing that you're thinking of, because chances are whatever you are thinking of, there is an API for it. And in the future, I strongly believe that APIs will become well known and widely used to the point where any sort of idea that anyone could think of will have an API for it, and that can be publicly used. So that's why I believe APIs are important, and that concludes my presentation. So I appreciate you guys listening in, and thank you. Okay, so here's just a list of my references, just to give you an idea of what I used. Just wanted to say thank you guys for listening once again. Appreciate you guys listening all the ways. It's been a tough semester, all the online stuff, but we're here, we're done, and it was great being part of your guys' class. Hope you guys have a great summer, and enjoy the last 2 weeks of this semester, and whoever's graduating, which I think we all are at this point, enjoy the next step of your life.